at 02:49 local time. A Ukrainian drone commander in the Zaporizhzhia Oblast is 40 seconds away from launching his 16th Liutyi, 15 already in the air, screaming southeast toward the Tuapse oil refinery on Russia's Black Sea coast, 640 kilometers out. Unknown to him, 90 kilometers east, a Russian rocket launcher has just rotated onto a bearing through his position, and the first round is already in the air. His first round impacts at 02:53, 180 meters off the road in a plowed field. The second hits 60 meters closer. The third hits the road itself. The whole salvo lands inside 40 seconds. Exactly enough time for the Ukrainians to throw themselves into ditches and drainage culverts as the rounds geyser dirt and frozen earth into the air around them. They're trained for this. They survive. The unlaunched drones do not. 3 Houthis cook off sequentially over the next 90 seconds. Fuel tanks on the trucks ignite, and the launchway turns into a 200-meter debris field that lights up the infrared for 50 kilometers. When the smoke clears and the commander counts heads in the dark, 8 guys, all moving. The youngest member of the unit is doing the math in his head and not liking the answer. He makes the call before anyone has caught their breath. Split up. 3 vehicles, 3 routes. Now. 2 men peel off towards a logging road northwest with the unit's spare control gear. 2 more grab the medical kit and run for an orchard a few kilometers north where the unit has a barn ready for exactly this kind of night. The commander himself climbs into the 3rd truck, the medical truck, and pushes east toward a fallback point 22 kilometers away. The vehicles are still moving when he figures out he should already know who fired on them. If you were to look at what just hit them, this is a 9A-52-4 Tornado S, a post-Soviet Russian upgrade of a 1980s rocket artillery design with GPS and tail fins bolted on. 12 300mm guided rocket tubes mounted on a Kamaz truck, accurate to 30 meters at 120 kilometers. A garden sprinkler with a laser pointer taped to the nozzle. It knows exactly where your lawn chair is, but it's going to soak the entire patio just to make sure. The Russians aimed at a 2-kilometer ellipse and let volume do the work of precision. Now the ellipse, that's the interesting part. Every Liutyi pings a satellite uplink during launch to confirm its route, and Russian signals intelligence units along the front line are listening. Imagine texting your wife from the couch every time you grab a beer from the fridge. By the 15th text, she knows exactly which cushion you're sitting on and how many empties are on the table. By drone 15, Russian SIGINT had the launch site narrowed to a 2-kilometer circle and a Tornado S battery 120 kilometers away, rockets already loaded. The Ukrainians spread the launches over 3 hours, hoping the Russians would not thread it together fast enough. Off by 10 minutes. 200 kilometers behind the front line, a Russian operator sitting in a windowless ground station swings his Orlan 30 toward the impact, and his camera's iris steps down twice as 3 secondary explosions wash the frame in white. He doesn't have to find the launch site anymore. The launch site is on fire from horizon to horizon in the infrared. He logs 8 separate heat sources peeling away from the wreckage in 3 directions. Then he does what good spotters do. He watches them and waits. That was an Orlan 30, the heavy-lift variant of Russia's most built reconnaissance drone. 7-hour flight time and infrared resolution sharp enough to read a vehicle from 4 kilometers up. If the Tornado S was the guy who threw the brick through your window, the Orlan is the Ring doorbell camera across the street that watched you run. He picks the truck with the most heat in the cab, the medical truck. 4 people inside, and pushes the coordinates not back to the Tornado S battery, which is displaced and is reloading in a tree line 40 kilometers away, but to a Lancet team waiting at a Russian forward post with different gear and a different way to finish the job. 8 minutes of head start. The Lancet team needs 12 to launch. The trucks don't know they're already losing the math. The Lancet operator on the receiving end is not in a hurry. He's watched dozens of Ukrainian dispersals turn into ghost hunts. The only way to flush a hidden truck is to wait until they think they got away, and then catch the transmission when they break radio silence. The mistake will come. They always do. 300 kilometers southeast of the burning launch site, the lead Liutyi crosses the front line into occupied southern Zaporizhzhia at 110 meters above the ground. Behind it, 14 surviving Liutyis fly in a loose 3-wave formation with 8 decoys mixed in. And for about 90 seconds, everything goes to plan. Then the lead Liutyi's collision avoidance system picks up a fast-moving thermal contact at 3 meters. And another, and another. The drone climbs 10 meters and banks 4 degrees south to dodge the contact. The next Liutyi follows the leader's track, and the whole formation drifts south of where it's supposed to be. Those are not interceptors. Those are Russian Turan-2s, heading the other direction into Ukraine, on their own one-way mission. The Turan-2 is Russia's license-built version of the Iranian Shahed-136, 50 kilos of warhead in a delta-wing airframe, lawnmower engine, 200 kilometers per hour, 1,800-kilometer range, $20,000 per drone built in a factory in Taristan that cranks out 100 a day. The cheap end of the same kind of weapon Ukraine is flying the other direction tonight. The Black Sea corridor in 2026 is the most drone-saturated airspace in human history. Turan's heading northwest out of Krasnodar and Crimea, Liutyi's heading southeast on counter-tracks, Lancets and Orlans loitering at intermediate altitudes, none of them talking to anything outside their own network. The standard move is to climb a few meters and bank away from any thermal contact rather than risk the math. It's like driving the highway where half the other cars are invisible and the other half might be carrying explosives. By the time the Liutyi formation finishes dodging traffic, it's 30 kilometers south of its planned track. The decoys, lagging minutes behind, kept the original heading. The real Liutyis are flying straight at the ship the planners didn't know was there. 200 kilometers of open water still sits between the Liutyi formation and Tuapse. The lead Liutyi drops to 90 meters above the water as the formation crosses the Sea of Azov. And at 0317, a missile screams off a rail on a ship the Ukrainians didn't know was there. It climbs to acquisition altitude, the seeker takes over, and the lead drone is scrap at 12 kilometers. 6 seconds later, the next missile launches, and by the third launch, 3 Liutyis are gone. By the 6th, the survivors are inside a 30mm cannon's reach, and the cannon shreds one more before its tracking can't keep up at close range. Just 2 Liutyis from the lead group make it through. What's bolted to her deck is a Pantsir-M, the navalized version of the air defense system Russia uses on land, mounted on a Vasily Baikov-class patrol ship. 8 interceptors loaded and ready out to 20 kilometers, 2 30mm cannons inside 5. Russia upgraded these specifically because Ukraine had been making patrol ships disappear. Same teeth as the land version, smaller box, surrounded by water. What just got chewed up by the Pantsir is the AN-196 Liutyi, Ukraine's long-range strike drone, built around a propeller engine that sounds like a lawnmower 40 kilometers off. About 3 meters of wingspan, 200 kilos at takeoff, 25-kilo warhead in the nose. Enough to open a fuel tank like a soup can. Top speed 200 kilometers per hour, range 1,100 kilometers. Boston to Atlanta on a tank of fuel, with a bomb where the cargo should be. The whole airframe cost Ukraine somewhere around $200,000, which is roughly the price of a moderately optioned Tesla. Tonight, Ukraine is throwing 16 of them at a refinery worth $4 billion. The Baikov was not supposed to be there. The route the Ukrainian planning team built came off commercial satellite imagery 5 days old. Imagery that showed the old Baikov patrol box 2 boxes ago. Her actual patrol box had shifted south 3 days earlier when a sister ship went home to Novorossiysk for refit. The new box turned out to be exactly where the Liutyi formation drifted when it dodged the Garan traffic. Her captain watched his magazine empty. 6 missiles fired. 4 hits, 2 Liutyis still flying. 2 more waves coming. Hold position with 2 interceptors left and absorb whatever the next wave brings. Or run and let the next wave fly past untouched toward the refinery. He gives the order to come right and open distance. Same math you do when you're down to your last $20 at the gas pump with 50 miles to drive. 200 kilometers behind the drone formation, the Lancet team that just got the truck's coordinates is finishing its launch checklist. The truck is now on a forested logging road southeast of the launch site, engine off, coasting downhill. The new guy is on lookout, watching the sky through the windshield. The signals officer has the unit's strike feed running on a tablet between his knees. Even Liutyi still in the air. The first ones inside their target run in at about 20 minutes. No contact warnings. 38 minutes since they ran. The first Liutyis hit Tuapse in 19. They're starting to think they got out clean. They haven't. 25 kilometers behind them and 4,000 meters up. The Orlan 30 is still circling, and now it's earning its second paycheck as a relay. The Lancet, the forward team catapulted 12 minutes ago, has flown the distance on its own motor and is starting a search pattern over the roads the medical truck is using. Every command from the ground operator bouncing down through the Orlan overhead. The commander catches the shadow first, a flicker across the windshield at the wrong angle. Up, he pulls off the road into heavy tree cover, cuts the engine, and lets the truck coast into the deepest part of the canopy. The new guy is out of the cab before it stops moving with a thermal blanket in his hands, heavy with reflective material, and gets it spread over the cab in 11 seconds. The signals officer drops his tablet to the lowest brightness setting and tucks it under a coat. They wait. What's hunting them is a Zala Lancet III, the drone Russia reaches for when it wants to take out a high-value target precisely. 3-kilogram-shaped warhead, small until you remember it was designed to punch through tank armor. 40 minutes of loiter time, and an AI seeker that can lock onto a vehicle without anyone holding the joystick. The Lancet is what happens when your GPS and your car keys become the same thing. It finds you, then it is the thing that hits you. Except this Lancet shouldn't be there at all. The Ukrainians had planned the dispersal route to keep the medical truck outside the Lancet's normal reach, 40 kilometers from any Russian post. The truck is 110 kilometers away. Look at the Orlan circling above. The Orlan's job is to loiter overhead as a flying signal tower so the ground operator keeps a clean control link 100+ kilometers past where his radio would otherwise quit. It's the cell booster you'd haul out to the deer camp so your phone still shows bars in the middle of nowhere. And this isn't the 40-kilometer Lancet the Ukrainians planned around. It's the extended range variant Russia started fielding in 2025. Redesigned antenna, longer reach, catapult launch, plus relay, plus the new airframe is how a drone that used to top out at 40 kilometers is now hunting a truck 110 clicks behind the line, exactly 70 kilometers deeper than the Ukrainians drew it on the map. Hiding from a 40-minute loitering drone is like hiding from your mother-in-law at a family reunion. She hovers and never blinks. Thermal blankets help against optical and infrared sensors, but you can't drive fast under one. Engine off coasting is silent and invisible, but only works where the road slopes down. And hiding under tree cover stops working the moment the seeker climbs to a new angle. The truck is doing all of them at once. It buys 10. 2,000 meters above them, the Lancet seeker scans the canopy and twice locks onto something. A deer in a clearing, then a stream pushing warm runoff across cooler ground. And the operator at the ground station overrides each lock. The truck stays cold. It has 38 minutes of fuel left and nowhere else to be. While the truck waits it out, the surviving Lutyis push toward the coast. They cross the Russian coastline at 0341, with the Tuapse 40 kilometers east, and at 0344, a missile screams out of a tracked vehicle on the refinery perimeter. Straight up, no aim. The seeker takes over the instant it clears the silo. Lead Liutyi of the second wave, foam at 12 kilometers. 5 more launches in the next 90 seconds, and 5 more drones go down. 3 Lutyis make it into the final approach by hugging the dirt under the radar's effective floor, 3 meters off the ground over flat terrain. If you look here at what just punched a Liutyi out of the air at 12 kilometers, this is a Pantsir-M, the late Soviet-designed Russia kept producing because nothing newer does it better, built specifically for the fixed-target air defense job that Pantsir keeps failing at. 12-kilometer reach, 4 simultaneous targets without breaking a sweat. If Pantsir is a guy trying to catch water balloons one at a time, Tor is the dad who set up 4 sprinklers pointing in different directions. Everything that crosses the lawn gets hit whether he's paying attention or not. Russia didn't put 1 Tor at Tuapse. They put 3. The 3 surviving Lutyis cross the refinery perimeter fence at 3 meters altitude. 1 drone through the close-in defenses, and a 50,000 cubic meter tank goes up. A 6-barrel cannon with a fixed pad swings onto the lead drone and rips a half-a-second burst, and the drone shatters into fiberglass confetti before its shadow is caught up to it. The mount snaps to the next target. Second drone, gone. The third Liutyi punches through a corridor a different gun on the perimeter was supposed to be covering, except that gun is still swinging back into position after chasing a decoy 15 minutes earlier. The drone survives. What shredded the first 2? An AK-630, originally a naval close-in weapon, now bolted onto a fixed pad on the refinery perimeter. 6-barrel rotary 30mm cannon, 5,000 rounds per minute, 3 seconds to swing onto a new target. The answer to the question of what you put around a refinery when the missiles fail. A chainsaw made of bullets. The kind of home security system your neighbor would install if the HOA didn't exist. Unsubtle, but it works. The surviving drone dives toward its programmed target, a 50,000 cubic meter storage tank in the eastern tank farm. The targeting came off commercial satellite imagery the unit bought 4 days earlier, and on imagery from April 16th, the tank was clearly full to the rim. The Lutyi's warhead detonates on impact with the roof, and the small fireball blooms above the tank farm. way smaller than what 75 kilograms of warhead opening up a full tank should look like. No secondary fire. The tank is empty because somewhere in late 2025, Russia figured out how Ukraine was picking targets. Russia learned the satellite imagery refresh cycle, learned which tanks Ukraine was hitting, and started moving the actual oil between tanks every time a satellite passed overhead. A shell game with 3 tanks where one has oil in it, the player keeps moving them, and the player is the only one who knows which is which. At Tuapse, the rotation runs on a 72-hour cycle. The tank Ukraine sees full on Tuesday is empty by Friday's strike. Ukraine was basically using password 123 for 3 years and wondering why the Russians kept getting in. The signals officer in the truck, still under the thermal blanket, still hidden. The Lancet still searching above, watches the small fireball bloom on his tablet and figures it out in 30 seconds. He pulls the thermal imagery from a different commercial provider, an American satellite outfit selling the same data to Ukrainian intelligence that the Pentagon buys for its own analysts, and looks for the opposite of what Ukraine had been hitting. Tanks that stayed cold while everything around them heated up and cooled down with products cycling through. Refrigerators in a row of ovens. 3 candidates. 2 Liutyis from the late wave still in the air and still programmable. The catch is the secondary uplink. That's the only channel that can send a Liutyi new coordinates in flight, and it's loud, slow, and traceable. The second commander keys it. The Lancet, circling 2,000 meters overhead, gets a strong, clean signal pointing straight down at the truck. The signals officer says it loud anyway. The rest of the mission costs them nothing if they do not transmit. 2 Liutyis hit empty tanks. The Russians keep their refinery. The unit lives to launch tomorrow night. The kind of quiet where you can hear yourself think and you wish you couldn't. He looks at the map and transmits anyway. 200 kilometers south, 2 Liutyis still in the air pick up the new coordinates and start banking into fresh headings. The corrections are small. The targets are only a couple of kilometers from where they were already going. At 0354, the first drone slams into a tank on the eastern edge of the farm and detonates the secondary explosion that defines the rest of the night. A 50,000 cubic meter tank of refined fuel erupting in a fireball that punches 200 meters into the pre-dawn sky and turns the horizon orange for 15 kilometers in every direction. The second drone slams into a neighboring tank 30 seconds later. The firewall between rows erupts and the fire leaps. If you enjoyed this video, then watch this other video on Ukrainian drones destroying another Russian oil depot. Bye for now.